out of state.
That's true.
Yeah.
So, what do you guys want to talk about? What do you want to hear about? We have no idea what to talk about here. Really.
I was down in the dealership, and I will. Hey, how are you? And we'll talk. You're coming back in August, right?
That's right. Yeah, absolutely.
We went over just to look for some cells, one table, because of the technological change. How has that technological change changed the process of anime production in Japan? How has that? Has it changed the culture at all? Is it still that grim little sweatshop in the corner thing? Are we a little broader? Is it more efficient?
Well, I mean,
more things economically that happen.
Yeah, I mean, not going into the whole outsourcing to other Asian countries. With the difference in technology, you know what? I miss the warmth of cells. I miss the dust specks on the screen. I mean, when I was working on Inuyasha, right at episode 98 is when they switched to all digital, no more cells. And when they do a flashback scene to an earlier episode, boy, the grain, just the picture is so noticeably different. Now, I'll have to say, if you're looking for HD images that are super high and clear, well, digital is the only way to really go. I mean, if you used hand-painted cells and recorded it digitally, you will see the brush strokes on a big, crisp enough TV.
It's been said that, like, when we did those, because now I can actually speak as an old timer for a change. Oh my God. Drawing the illustrations there was just a ton of satisfaction, and you really knew that you were working on something. And it's not to take anything away from the computer animation, because there's a lot of beautiful rendered, computer rendered stuff out there. But man, I tell you, even those animators look back at the old stuff and go, wow. Back then you could just see the passion that these guys had for drawing the illustrations and making the films and putting them together.
I mean, animators still have work. They still have to do the pencils, they still have to do the in-betweens. Just the painting aspects and the photography aspects, and then a lot of the digital effects that are added in afterward are newer. So there are new jobs that weren't there before, but if you're an old school painter, that's what you used to do, you're not finding a whole lot of work these days. If you're, pencil and paper kind of guy, you're still necessary, because that has to be there before it can be scanned in, before it can be digitally painted.
Has it accelerated the process from concept to pencil to completed frame and a completed package?
It has accelerated it to a huge degree, but the problem now is that, and I've seen this a lot over there, is and the Japanese and Americans even say it too as well, because a lot of companies nowadays are actually starting to look for the old-time hand animators and hand painters again, because as they put it, yes, for every Pixar out there that's making this crisp, awesome computer animated stuff, so much other stuff is getting put out that has no soul. And so they're really looking now again to recapture that excitement and soul that the old hand-drawn animation styles had.
That's not to say WALL-E doesn't look freaking amazing.
No. Absolutely not to take it away, but for every WALL-E out there.
The Oscar nominations for Best Animated Feature, they're all 3D films. Why not just make a separate 3D animated and 2D animation? Sure, the whole animation...
Different art. Yeah.
The whole Academy Award for animation is something new. It only started in 2001.
Yeah.
But now that we had Bandai had Sword of the Stranger, Sony had Skycrawlers out there, and they're both beautiful pieces of work that I thought deserved some sort of recognition. I mean, the fact that they were, submitted, I think, was pretty big, but we didn't have a chance against all these 3D things since they're in the same group together in the same category.
I think I would just add to what's been said so far. I think to go to your question about the industry inside Japan, I think you would all agree that it's putting an added financial pressure on the Japanese industry, which perhaps to some degree it can't really withstand. I mean, a lot of the animation studios in Japan are nothing like Pixar. In structure, in size, in investment. They're really mom and pop operations. That's part of their charm. It's also quite disorienting when you encounter them for the first time. As you duck behind a ramen shop, and that's the studio, right?
Pretty much, yeah.
Cubicle. But in the aesthetic side, I'm just going to hold this up, not to promote this, but I'm part of this series called Anime Masterpieces, which is a project where we're taking, supported by, in part by JETRO, Japan External Trade, taking anime films to university campuses and museums, and trying to introduce them to an audience that is very different from the con audience, very different from you folks in many respects. So they may understand art, but don't know what this Japanese animation is. And on Tuesday night, we presented at the Museum of Fine Arts in Boston an original print of Grave of the Fireflies, which I had never seen. I'd only seen the DVD. And let me tell you, it was like seeing a new film. And the organic nature of the experience, I don't want to get too sentimental about this, but it's a moving film and a masterpiece. But the organic experience of watching on a giant screen with excellent surround sound this beautifully hand-drawn animation, Grave of the Fireflies, was like really a revelation to me. I couldn't believe how moved I was, how beautiful, how I was seeing things I'd never seen before, how the details of the raindrops on the rice paddies and so on just evoked this whole world. You really felt like you entered into a whole world. And I don't know that that's possible with computer-generated imagery.
No.
Not that Wall-E looks fantastic, but I feel like I'm in awe as I look at it. It's like something is somebody's showing off to me when I look at that, and I think, wow, you're incredible. This is amazing. But with the hand-drawn experience, it's like you're actually entering into the dream world of the story. That's how I felt seeing it on Tuesday night.
I saw just recently, for the first time, the brand, well, it may be old now, but for me it was certainly brand new, but it was like these newer episodes of Dr. Slump that had been filmed, done entirely with the computer. And I remember when Dr. Slump, Akira Toriyama's creator of Dragon Ball Z, his first big hit was this funny story about this little crazy village with a crazy scientist who has this robot daughter who just creates crazy havoc. And this was all hand animated in the 80s. And then when I saw it again just recently on Japanese TV, like the 1990s version that was now being produced, or it may be over now. So long story short, this thing was now done by computer. And I really was, when I was watching this, just felt, my God, it looks so, it was very slick production with the computers and smooth and whatnot. But like you said, without the scratches or the little nuances.
Or the imperfection of the line.
It was just too perfect. And when it was just too perfect, it really felt just a little too sterile. So,
do you think that's why every time Miyazaki puts out a new Miyazaki film,
he still does it by hand.
And he still does it by hand. Is that why it has that impact and that reach to the
I think so.
Yes.
I mean,
That and his incredible ability to tell a story.
and, I saw Grave of the Fireflies in the theater in Japan, and amazing experience, but the worst double feature ever with Totoro. I saw it with my now wife, and then we watched Grave of the Fireflies first because we wanted to save Totoro for later. We're sitting there with eyes just pouring tears. And it's like watching Totoro, and Trish is like, at least they've got food to eat. And then there's like a couple of junior high school student girls sitting in front of us. They're all going, kawaii, kawaii. I swear she was ready to jump over the seats and start throttling those girls.
I had a strange little moment like that, because just real quick, for any of you that do not know Fireflies, without giving up the story too much, World War II. Realistic, lifetime, my mom went through it, your mom went through it kind of experiences. And talk about being hungry. And but my real quick, I was just recently, I went and visited Hiroshima. And it was my first time there. It's like, oh my God, the bomb and, all the thousands of deaths. And my little moment that was kind of like what you're just explaining was, here we were, me and my American friend, we're walking around just like totally amazed with how the city's rebuilt, but the death and the devastation that happened here. And just walking right around the corner came two girls with the Lolita costumes and the little hat, and they were getting their pictures taken like next to these war memorials, like.